It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
Let's see what happens today. I don't know what the time's going to be like on this. I'm looking over and I'm seeing my infant child, Woods, starting to rumble a little bit. First of all, apologies, no Friday episode this week. The weekend has been crazy. All right, starting Thursday until now, I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon. Normally, I record the Monday podcast late Sunday night, but there's a reason why I'm not doing that. And we'll get into that here in a moment. I want to thank the Patreon members of the Sean Widmer Podcast over on patreon.com/Sean Widmer Podcast for making this happen. You got to see, you got a little preview as to what I'm going to talk about today. You got a little preview to that in video form of my kids in the truck and my stupidity. So thank you to the Patreon members for being part of this and making this happen. No 5-star reviews today on iTunes, as per usual. But if there ever is one, we read it to kick off the show. Otherwise, I come up with a shout-out. Shout-out to everyone who reminded me, and there was a lot of you, and thank you for this. Nom nom. Nom nom. Zip Trip. Convenience means more at a Zip Trip store. What a great jingle. What a great gas station. But they turned into nom noms. So nom nom, thank you to everybody who corrected me on that, because the second I saw, I think maybe Paul was the first person I saw who sent me that message, and I was like, of course it's nom nom. Thank you. And then they started coming in, and I was like, this is good. This is good. I think people like nom nom. I love a good gas station. Okay, why am I sweating? I'm dripping sweat right now. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but it's going to hearken to my stupidity. Friday, it's been a busy weekend. Friday, we decided to go camping. I talked about it on the podcast, and we decided to go camping. So a lot of people have mentioned, a lot of Patreon members who got to see the video that I posted Saturday about what happened camping have let me know, why don't you start out camping in the backyard? And it's a really good question, and one that I should have listened to this weekend, because here's what happened. Friday night, we went camping. My daughter, my son, Huck, and me. And we drove up to this campsite. Now, I will tell you, Friday afternoon here in Lexington, crazy rainstorm. I cannot believe how much it rains here in Lexington. I mean, it downpours. It comes through, and it's a wall of water. You can't even see in front of you. It is an absolute downpour. And they come through, it rains like crazy, and then the sun comes back out. And the reason I'm dripping sweat right now is because it's instant humidity. Instant. It's so humid and moist. It feels like you're swimming. And so we had the rain here in Lexington, but we looked down where the campsite was, and it looked like the rain was going to miss that area. We thought it was going to miss that area. So we drive down there. It's about a 38-minute drive, and get to the campsite. First of all, bummer about the campsite. You have to park. I had to park my truck in one spot, and then piece by piece lug everything that we're taking to the campsite. So the tent, the sleeping bags, the air mattress, the totes with all our stuff in it, the cooler. So I'm just walking back and forth. Well, it's humid, and I'm just dripping sweat. But that's okay. I don't really mind that part. So I get the tent set up. My kids are loving it. My daughter is in love with the tent. She goes in the tent, and she's just like, this is great, right? It's a own play world. I start a fire to make hot dogs. My son is mesmerized by the fire. And so we're in a good spot. And then it happens. Then it happens in an instant. Not even like leading in. I mean, we'd been there for maybe an hour and a half. We're having a good time. We're having a really good time. And that storm that hit Lexington hit our campsite. And it was instantaneous. And it was thunder and lightning and buckets of water. And I couldn't quite, I'm trying to because at that time I had something going on the stove. We had hot dogs, but it sounded like there was still some hunger. So I was cooking a little bit extra stuff on the stove. And I'm trying to get this put away, and I look over and realize the tent is not as under trees as I thought it was, and it is pouring on it, and the window flaps are open so that we can get some airflow through there, and I can just tell I'm already too late to the game. It's going to be a bucket of water dumped in there. So I look over, I get that closed. My daughter is terrified of thunder, terrified of the rainstorms. She is in pure panic mode. She won't even really look up at me. She's just buried into the pillow. It's the saddest thing I've seen. My son doesn't want to get in the tent. He wants to stand in the rain and just get soaked. All heck is breaking loose. Now there's tears that begin to come out from both kids just because there's a lot going on. It's getting hectic. The thunder is loud. It's right on top of us. It was crazy. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm calling it. Could we have maybe gotten the truck and waited it out a bit? Maybe, but I think we had already been drenched too much. That was going to be hard to recover at night to get dry. We just didn't have that. Sun wasn't going to be out. We were going to rely on just the heat to dry us. Well, it's this wet heat. Everything's just going to be moist. So I called it, and I pack up a bunch of wet stuff in the back of the truck, and we head home, much to my wife's dismay, because she was kind of hoping for a nice, peaceful night to herself, and here I come back with a bunch of muddy kids, and so we called it. And so yesterday, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I was like, man, I really want to do this. My daughter's first experience there that she remembers was awful. She now doesn't even want to talk about it. And I'm like, this is a bummer because I want to get into this. So I post the video on Patreon of the kids talking about what happened on the drive home. It's kind of cute. And I get a couple comments like, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to camp in your backyard first. That's how you need to do it. And so I'm thinking about that. And so what have I decided to do tonight? Go back to the campsite because I'm an idiot. And I want to do that. I want to go camping with these kids. So yeah, I'm going to do that again tonight. I just think if I was in the backyard and I was that close to the house, my kids would stay in the tent for like 5 seconds and then they just want to go inside. So I think we have to be far away for it to result in a night sleeping in a tent. So we're going to try again. I've got some wet stuff. I've dried off a lot of the stuff. Nothing is packed how I want it to be because I just threw everything in the back of my truck to try to get out of there. So like the tent isn't in its, like it's everything that I hate about how you're supposed to go camping is happening right now for me, which is already setting up poorly. The sleeping bags aren't rolled up because I just throw them in the back of the truck. Yeah, like I said, the tent's not in its case, so it's just loose. The tent poles are just kind of muddy and on the side, but I'm determined to get this camping trip in. And so we're going to do it tonight, kind of a Clark Griswold moment. Is it going to go well? Who knows? But at least we're going to go in with a little knowledge of the campsite this time. We're going to go in with a better game plan with how to stay dry. The campsite has some really cool stuff. What I need to make sure I do is get there, get everything set up, and then as long as it doesn't rain, there was a playland, like a big kids play set there. They have a boat that they brought up and sunk into the ground that the kids can play in. There's like a little general store lodge at the front of this campsite that you can go in, and it's got a bunch of cool stuff and snacks and stuff. Oh, hang on. All right, a little interruption there for my daughter who is playing, and I've got this bag of, what are these things? You can see them on YouTube. Decorative accents, these little beads, and they're like her favorite thing, and she wants all of them, and I've given her a handful of them, but it's not enough. So anyways, where were we? We were at the campsite, and it's a cool one. Like I said, general store. So once we get there, if we can just get set up, I think we'll be in a good spot. So we're going to try it again. Tune in Wednesday to find out how that's going to go. I don't know. The rest of the weekend, Saturday was really fun. We actually had a great time. My wife and I went out to dinner with her friends, some of her high school friends, and we went to this cool area, this cool little town outside of Lexington, Versailles. Now, it is spelled like Versailles or whatever it is, the one in Europe. I don't know. What is it? Is it in France? Versailles? I don't know. Versailles. But it's Versailles here. And it's a cute little old town. And my wife's friend bought a historic home there that is wild. Like the homes there are what you see from movies. It was my first real feeling of we're in the South now. And the homes are like I said, like in Sweet Home Alabama style, in the city, in the small little towns, big, huge houses. In the back, it had like this big backyard. It had slave quarters. Don't know what I thought about that. Turned into a guest room. Kind of weird. It also has on their property there's a building that's the very first bank of the city, and it's probably a 12 by 12 building. It's crazy. It's in this guy's house, on the property. It's a beautiful, huge home, but it's in this little small town. It was my first real taste of like a southern big home. It reminded me of Brown's Edition in Spokane. Very cool. So we got to go out to dinner out there. It was a really good dinner, really fun time. And then one of my wife's husbands, Michael, had tickets to the UK game, which he thought he was going to miss. Well, the University of Kentucky Wildcat football game got delayed over and over because of thunderstorms in the area. Because, again, we are in the midst of just pure rainy season here. Great time to go camping. And so it got delayed enough that we went to the football game last night and got to watch the UK Southern Miss game. The UK wins. But it was crazy because it was going so late. This game was being played so late here. And then it actually got suspended again in the third quarter because lightning came out again. And so the game got called, and they actually decided to settle it as a full game. The teams got together and decided it would be a full game, which is crazy. They're not going to finish it. I mean, UK was up by a ton. They were smoking them. And so we are leaving the stadium, and it was kind of a bummer because we had planned on leaving early, but then there was no chance to leave early because the game just got called for Thunder. So everyone's leaving at the same time now. And we were trying to get an Uber, and it took us an hour and 20 minutes to get an Uber, and we're walking all over campus, walking more last night than I've walked in forever, trying to find a place to pick up an Uber. It starts pouring rain. We're standing in the pouring rain, waiting for this Uber. Finally got the Uber. The guy who was the Uber driver couldn't figure out how to get two destinations on this Uber app. It was a nightmare, ending to a very fun night and a chance to go see the UK game. So it was cool. Also in the midst of that, I had my fantasy football draft with my buddies, with Andy and Jeremy and Chris and Max and Jalen and Graham and Rhett and the squad, Matt and Matt. So I got to do that. I had the number one pick overall. Couldn't get my phone to log in at 8:59. Should have tried to log in a couple minutes earlier and missed my first overall pick. Got Josh Allen. But the whole point of this, bringing that up, is it was, you know what? Let's do this.
Kelly's What Are You Into?
It was my Kelly's What Are You Into? Because I love this group of friends. I love this fantasy football league. I'm in two fantasy football leagues. One's a money league, and then this one is just the long-running league with really close friends to talk trash and have our league go. And every year, I feel like there's a couple people who will be, and I know I've been this person, who are like, do we keep the league going? Do we do another year of this? With no money on the line. It's just kind of there. I can point my finger at me on this. People kind of forget about it, and you're not paying attention, and you have like a week 10 where you have everyone on bye week, and you're not checking, so you don't even start anyone. Lack of effort. I mean, my lack of effort was crazy last year. I finished last place. That's why I got the first pick this year. But then the draft happens, and I see all the names of the people, and it's like, no, I love this league. My Kelly's What Are You Into is the fantasy football leagues that are with your longtime friends that you've been doing for a long time. I think they're great. And it was a bummer last night. I had a little moment. I'm emotional anyways. I had a little moment. I was sitting at dinner, and I'm looking at Anna and her friends, her high school friends, and I am looking at my phone, and it's dinging with Max's name talking trash to me. Rhett takes a shot at me. And I'm seeing this. Jalen and Andy both text me, and those are my best friends. And so 1 year ago was the last day I was in Spokane. 1 year ago, that draft for that league was the last thing I did before waking up the next morning at Andy's house and starting the drive out here to Kentucky. And it hit me like an absolute ton of bricks at dinner last night. And I am doing the thing where I'm in between people, and it hit me, and I'm like feeling a little bit of the waterworks coming out because, again, I'm emotional, and I'm trying not to think about it. So I'm trying to think of baseball, and I'm just trying not to think about missing my friends. Made it through. I think Michael might have said something ridiculous that kind of jarred me back into reality, and I was just like, oh. But then I thought about it later that night when I was heading home from the football game. I was like, yeah, it was 1 year here in Lexington. 1 year. There's got to be a 1 year recap episode coming up to kind of get that, just kind of feel out how year one went in Lexington. But holy cow, do I miss those guys. Holy cow. I miss them so bad. I last night not being at Jalen and Andy's house for the draft, and then knowing that they didn't have enough people who wanted to go to their house to do the draft. They didn't even have people over. I think Jeremy was going to go and Graham was going to go, but that was it. And I wanted to go grab the rest of the people in the league and be like, you idiots, why aren't you going to Andy and Jalen's house? This is like, don't take it for granted. We might have taken it for granted too much. I would give anything to be at their house doing the draft. I'd give anything. So someone's screaming in the back. The reality of doing the podcast during the day when the kids are awake, hearing my daughter scream, which means someone has fallen. I'm going to go check it out. Hang on. All right, I've got to wrap up the podcast. That's another intermission right there. My daughter, there's not a medicine ball. What are those big balls? What are those big balls? What are those big balls you get that you can sit on? People sit on them at a desk. Exercise ball, is that what they're called? She pulls this thing out all the time. We tell her every time she has it, you are going to hurt yourself if you play with it. What do you know? Right over the top. Not the most athletic of our children. Probably my favorite, though. Let's do some comments real quick. Here's what we got from Nick from First Timer. Love him. He said, Sean, number one, your story of camping in your young professional life made me think that you were quietly trying to divulge that you were homeless at random times and sleeping in parks. That's so funny. Nick, I just loved it, man. I just loved it. Two, sharing a tent with 3 children sounds hellish. Might I suggest trying to convince your wife to buy a tow-behind camper? A company called Airliner makes some great ones. Okay, yes, I would love that. I don't have a place for one. I don't have a place to put one. Where are you going to put a camper that big? I don't have a place to put one. And it sounds hellish, and yet I'm going to go try it again here in about 2 hours. But I agree with you. I fully agree with you. And 3, regarding elite gas stations, we need to get you to the Midwest. Quick Trips in Wisconsin are the elite of the elite. Are Quick Trips better than Buc-ee's? I've heard Buc-ee's is the ultimate when it comes to gas stations. And so I have not been to a Quick Trip. I would love to try it out. But I heard Buc-ee's is the gold standard. Nick, thank you for commenting. I appreciate that. That's a guy I really like. That's a guy I really appreciate taking some time to write a comment down. Old friend who's kept in touch, which is cool. Ian says this: things I've made for meals while camping with kids. Tinfoil dinners. Great call, Ian. Filet mignon French style. Okay, too much work. Garlic Parmesan chicken bites. Interesting. Bacon cheeseburgers. If I remember to bring my portable grill grate, can do fresh pizza. Corned beef and Reubens. That concludes my interesting dishes while camping. The rest are the usual suspects. I can and do make curries sometimes as well. Ian, just in general, I would like your curry recipe. Thank you. Email me that. I need a good curry recipe. I don't think I could do it camping. For me, the camping part with the kids, it's really hard when you're the only adult. It's hard to take time to cook, at least for me it is, because I'm just constantly like watching to make sure no one's falling in a river or in a fire or running away or getting kidnapped by the inevitable crazy people in the Kentucky wilderness. I'm excited to get out there tonight. Okay. Kirsten says this: yes, I still listen, and sorry, I'm not into the Star Wars game, so you'll have to find another gamer friend, that is. I'm back on my WoW era. I saw you were playing WoW. The new expansion comes out for WoW. I'm real interested in it, Kirsten. Real interested. I'm just on a Star Wars kick. And Kirsten knows that I know we go through phases with games, and there will be a moment it's like, I need my WoW fix, and then you'll be so over WoW, and it's like, I need my Final Fantasy 14 fix. And that genre just kind of sucks you into what world you're in. So, Kirsten, if you ever want to get into the Star Wars game, I know it sounds like you're not into it at all, but if you ever want to, I'm here for you. Enjoy WoW. I'm jealous. Jesse said this: you're the absolute poop. Keep it up. Look, Jesse, this is a family-friendly podcast. Thank you. I appreciate that. Jesse's the man. He once came in the radio studio, and made us some French toast that was baller. So thank you, Jesse, for that. Still, this far away from that, thank you still. This one comes from Spokane Rose. Paul says, roll call, check in. Yeah, thank you, Paul, for checking in so I know people are listening. Okay, I have to go. I've got an infant son waking up. Pretty soon I'm going to have my other son waking up. Then we're going to load up the truck, and we're going to do the dang thing, and we're going to go camping when we shouldn't. All right, thanks for listening. I appreciate it.